I'm like, oh man, we're like too sucky. We don't fit in at church. And now we can't even fit in at the rejects for church. Where does that leave us? So, as you guys know, if you've been watching this vlog for a while, we used to consider ourselves evangelical Christians. We were raised in this type of faith community, and over the last 2 or 3 years, through some choices outside of ours and including ours, we no longer consider ourselves a part of that community. And part of what I consider my recovery has been listening to people and authors and speakers who are also outside of this. One of these resources that has been really helpful for me is a podcast called Exvangelical. We discovered these about 9 months ago, and I've probably listened to 10 or 20 episodes. And they have an online Facebook group that I also joined. And it wasn't super productive for me, except for I did find a lot of articles and resources that were interesting to me, but the conversation seemed a little bit like angrier than is really helpful for me. This last week, I got kicked off of it, and I'm a little bit shocked and also a little bit not shocked. So I wanted to share with you guys how that happened and just what I'm feeling and thinking about. First off, the description for the group, it says it's a community for those who have left evangelicalism, fundamentalism, to share stories of their experiences and support one another as they process with others in a safe, affirming, and private space. Okay, I agree with all that, and I want all that. I think this was Saturday now. I'm not sure when exactly it was, but a moderator wrote this post. And I'm going to read the whole thing in its entirety because I think it's important. Mod post. We validate the full humanity of our members of all genders and sexual identities. As an exvangelical space, we are thankful to be a source of healing and acceptance for those who have been erased, judged, harmed, and dehumanized by the church and our dominant culture. This is especially crucial for our transgender and non-binary members. I think I agree with all of this. I think a lot of people who did not fit in to the evangelical space have been essentially canceled out or black sheeped or ignored or kicked out or a lot of things. And I do think that transgender and non-binary people have probably had it the worst. I mean, I can't really say I didn't experience that firsthand, but from what I've heard, I don't doubt this. Moving on. You may be so new to deconstruction that you don't understand what it means to be transgender or non-binary. You may have never met someone who doesn't comply with the gender binary imposed by our culture. Gender binary is everyone is male or female, period. This tends to go along with gender essentialism, that gender is determined by genitalia. You are welcome to be in early learning stages, but the incredible range of biological sexes, genders, and identities in the world. You don't have to understand everything. However, we do require that our members commit themselves to fully accepting and validating transgender and non-binary people. If you cannot agree to this, if you harbor any anti-trans ideas, this is not the place for you, and we encourage you to see yourself out. If we learn that you have any anti-trans, transphobic, TERF views, we will remove you. And then it's signed by, I guess, all the moderators. This second paragraph is where I had a bit of a problem, and it is this line that says, we do require that our members commit themselves to fully accepting and validating transgender and non-binary people. To me, this goes into a realm where you're policing belief systems that actually becomes, one, impossible, and two, non-productive to the greater whole of group health.
You're even policing feelings. Well, it's a feeling that stems from a belief, probably.
Yeah. And we really learned how to create this distinction when we first went to therapy, because I was being accused of a lot of accusations in the spiritual community of a lot of feelings that I was being accused of causing. And our therapist was really helpful because he said, are these people describing any behaviors? Like, for example, are they saying you hit me, or you stole from me, or you did something to me? Because those are the things that actually, you know, if you're going to talk about like the Bible talks about our sin, or when it comes to like group health and moderation with each other, those are the areas that we can really focus on with relationally with other people, because they're the actions directly that we do to other people. So like, if I get angry at you because I'm just like, well, I don't like the way that you think or the way that you look at me. I guess looking at me could be like, I don't like what you believe. Like, you're not crossing any lines with your belief. You would cross a line once you do something that hurts me. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to online moderation, I'm all for if they say no hate speech, no derogatory speech, no saying these words even. Like, I mean, if it's like a certain degree of censorship, I'm fine with. But when you start saying people like actually have to emotionally and spiritually commit to this, what I've seen happen in spiritual communities when there's a requirement for a belief or commitment is people either try and do it, but they almost have to trick themselves or even other people
to belong.
Just to belong.
Yeah,
whether they're there or not. Mm-hmm. But the social pressure is so high that now you have to do it, which is actually, I think, has a negative reaction to true and lasting change in belief. Because I think it would be great if a lot of the people in this forum actually became that way. If they became more accepting to transgender and non-binary folks. But to demand that requirement?
Well, and if someone was on the fence or maybe had some transphobic tendencies, this is not a place where they could even learn how to not have that and how to engage with someone who maybe could actually teach them a thing or two. It's like, no, sorry, go find that help elsewhere. This is not a place for that kind of help.
Which I actually would also be fine with if they said this group is specifically for those people.
Yeah.
But this is not just a support group for non-binary and trans. This is a support group for evangelicals. The second problem I have with enforcing belief is that I found that it leads to faking it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read my response. This is what I wrote. Imagine for a second that we did this for other beliefs. And I just took their quote, but I added my thing. If you harbor any anti-pot, abortion, prostitution, church, or atheist ideas, this is not the place for you, and we encourage you to see yourself out. I mean, people are mixed. I'm sure I have some beliefs, even if I don't want to, because I was just raised a certain way and things are foreign to me and they're threatening, and even though I want to change, I don't think it's realistic to assume that no one can accept the fact that they have any. While I appreciate the goal to create an accepting community, and I personally have committed to accepting all humans, I have concerns about creating a community that requires that our members commit themselves to fully accepting and validating any people, group, or idea. In my experience with evangelicalism, creating any required belief or insisting that people commit does not lead people to real belief, acceptance, and love. It just drives away those that aren't able to fake it as much and promotes artificial environments of agreement. Why does this need to be a requirement for a successful community? I get that transgender or non-binary folks need extra sensitivity, but why not have a requirement for this community that doesn't try and police people's inner hearts? To be truly exvangelical, I want to be part of a community that creates no black sheep, including those who are not quite ready to commit to any belief track. For the purpose of moderation, I don't mind excluding certain behaviors, but to exclude people and belief systems crosses a line that becomes just as dangerous as what I am trying to walk away from. I'm sure there's going to be a backlash of people saying, I don't care, understand about being trans or non-binary. This isn't true, and this post is not meant to diminish those people. My heart is for people, but to experience true healing in a community, but I don't believe that we get it by creating another code that just judges any other type of person or excludes another type of person. Mm-hmm. So I actually took a screenshot of this for some reason. I don't know if I just had a bad feeling of it, but immediately afterwards, I noticed that I was blocked. Like I didn't have access to the page anymore, but I could still see the page. So then I applied for the page again, and
Did
then
they erase your content?
Yeah, they must have.
Oh.
And then I got like double blocked. Like now I can't even see the page. It's really just kind of, it makes me sad because what we experienced in the church was that a lot of people hang on to beliefs and codes about morality and God as a way of separating themselves from other people, and they impose these things upon God. It actually ends up being kind of dangerous if God's not that type of being, and we are, and we use him as justification for that. So then to see a group of people who are kind of like leaving that, what I think is a little bit ironic and sad is that in a way they're creating a club where they're extending extra sympathies to certain members, but you don't judge a group by how well it just cares for certain people. I think you can judge the power of love or a group by how well it is able to love those that are even on the outside of it.
Or even bigots and people that are hating on other people.
That have different beliefs. So I did look at like the rules for the group. You know, I mean, there's this one that says like minimize drama, and like, I'm really not trying to create drama with this post. I just think that that's an unnecessary and unhelpful long-term decision for a moderation for a group. And you become then just like a church, and you're like saying, hey, sign this group of beliefs, and not, like I said, there's a huge difference from what you believe inside and how you treat people. You know, if you want to create a group and rules at your house where you're like, hey, no shouting, great. But if you say, hey, in order to come into my house, you can't believe in shouting, that's like a whole nother level, you know?
Yeah.
The rules did say this, it was interesting. They said infractions will be addressed in the post itself. If the issue is addressed, they will be allowed to stay. After 3 more warnings, the member will be removed. Members will be immediately dismissed if they do not comply with the admin. None of this happened with me. I didn't get any warnings. I wasn't told why I was kicked out. The reason why I'm not surprised is I think this is a very easy pattern to fall into. And this is a book that we just finished reading in a book club. It's called The Divine Magician by Peter Rollins. And it says, when people change their beliefs, they often do so as a way of preserving the very same role that the former beliefs played. We could change our beliefs many times over without substantially challenging the way in which we hold these beliefs. The focus on correcting a religious belief that we think is incorrect thus obscures the more important and difficult task of discovering why a particular belief is held in the first place and how it functions in our lives. What he's saying, I think, is that there's all different codes that have changed throughout all of history, and being like, oh, black people are bad, or trans people are bad, or, you know, Mexicans or people of other races, you know, people have held all sorts of beliefs, and those beliefs are always evolving throughout all of history. But it's not good enough just to evolve that belief and just switch out the people in there. At the end of the day, if you have this belief that this group of people out there are bad, so that it props you up and makes you feel better about yourself and more lovable by God, then you need to examine that whole role that that belief plays in your life, regardless of what belief it actually is. It could be Christianity, it could be Islam, it could be Buddhism, it could be Exvangelicalism.
Or atheism or agnosticism.
Yeah, and discovering why those beliefs are there, I think is a lot more easier said than done. It's very tricky. A lot of times we think we believe something just because it's the most accurate, or we think we're super analytical or objective or something like that.
It's a whole nother level of introspection, I think, to actually examine, why do I need these beliefs? Why do I need to prop myself up? Or even to see that you're doing that to begin with. It's much easier to, I don't want to say it's like super easy, but it's easier to just switch beliefs out for just another belief. To actually think, well, why do I think I'm better than someone else who believes something different? Why do I need to feel that way?
So I'm willing to be shown if my post is anti-trans or gay or gender non-binary or any human. I don't think I feel comfortable apologizing just if it makes certain folks uncomfortable. Although I do think comfort is important, but I think that sometimes preserving the long-term health of a group, it doesn't always come at what's comfortable. So I don't want to call these people out, but I do want to say to these moderators, Chad, Blake, Chrissy, Emily, Amy, Ann, Laura, Jeremiah, Bethany, Carla, I would love to be a part of this community if it's going to involve discussion, and I'm open to, consider this, because I can't be part of the group and I can't even access the moderators. Consider this an invitation for conversation. If you want to respond, I would love to hear that. Otherwise, I hope it's just something for our channel that helps you guys think through something and just shares where we're at in this process. But it was hard. Like, I'm like, oh man, we're like too sucky. We don't fit in at church, and now we can't even fit in at the rejects for church. Where does that leave us?
Oh man.
What group? Or is there like an atheist group or something that they're like nice to people like us?
Maybe humanism.
Are you my mother? All right, well, thanks guys for watching. I hope this was interesting to you and helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can converse about these very difficult topics. See you tomorrow.